Hey, everybody. I am back, but today I have a lady that I only got to meet 3 weeks ago. Her name is Lindsay Dain. She's from Waco, Texas, and shares some crazy similarities to a life that I grew up in, which was with a deaf mother. And she does amazing things with the deaf community, and I just want her to talk about that. I'm going to let her talk. Lindsay?
Okay. Hi. So yes, my name is Lindsay Dain. I live in Waco. I am a trained teacher. So I used to teach elementary school. I taught kindergarten and preschool, and I also have a degree in deaf education. And I did not have a deaf mother, but I had a friend who was deaf who taught me some sign language just for fun. So I took sign language as a fun class in college, and I loved it. And so I took as much as I could until my teaching program, and then I had to stop. But it was my foreign language and it was perfect. So I went on with my life. I became a teacher. And then later I decided to go back to college, and I didn't want to do just general education. I love sign language. So I was like, I want to do deaf education. And so that's what I did. But when I was looking for programs, there was a special program in St. Louis that had full ride scholarship. So I was like, I got to check it out. I actually on the other side. So I'm sure you're familiar, but the deaf community, it's very passionate. Everybody's really, how I say, they have, I don't know, it's split down the middle. So there's one side that's like sign language, ASL, it's a language, it's a complete language, it's our culture. There's nothing wrong with not being able to hear. And then there's the other side that is, well, we won't give you access to sound, so you have the ability to hear if you want. So when I first started going to school, I learned all about sign language and deaf culture. And so when I found this program, it was like the other side. And I thought, oh no, I don't know if I want to do that. But I decided to make create my own opinion. So I checked it out, and it was awesome. It was so cool. So I got my degree in deaf education. And what I learned was how teachers teach children who are deaf how to listen and speak. So all the kids that I worked with were profoundly deaf, most of them, and had cochlear implants or hearing aids, and they learned how to speak. Super cool, but it was really hard. And it's so funny. Like, you think about how naive you are as you get, I don't know, looking back. I have my degree in elementary education. I had zero medical terminology, nothing. And I went to grad school at the School of Medicine, Washington University School of Medicine. I never thought I needed to know any medical words. It never crossed my mind. I don't know. So anyway, I had a huge learning curve because I didn't know any words that they were talking about. And they use all these medical words like, this is called a pinna. Didn't know that. Earwax is called cerumen. Your eardrum is called the tympanic membrane. So I was like, tell you what, I understand. But I did learn, and it is so cool because as a teacher of the deaf, they trained us with audiologists, and they wanted us to be the bridge between the doctors and parents. The parents, 90% of children who are born with hearing loss are to hearing parents who are not prepared. And so they're getting all of these words in their face too, right? And they don't know what the doctor's talking about. So the goal was to educate the teachers who have more time with them to help them to understand. So I can relate knowing nothing because I didn't know anything, but I learned so much, and it was cool.
My grandparents knew nothing. So when they started to notice that, because even after her fever at 18 months, they didn't really know that she lost her hearing. They just noticed that things were changing. And so they didn't know what to do for 10 years back in the early 50s, late 40s. They didn't know what to do with my mom. So she didn't get somebody like you. Miss Pope was her teacher in Waco, which is so just crazy. Miss Pope, she didn't get a teacher like you until she was 10 years old. And it changed the course of the rest of her life to learn how to communicate and to get a little bit of sound. So as you're talking, all I keep thinking is, I wish you would have been around then, but they didn't have all this information.
That's, I have met more and more people who are deaf that have the same story. And all we can do now is we have more information. We just need to share the information.
And
go ahead.
Oh no, I was going to get into all the information you have like behind you. Of this lady, Lindsay, y'all, has the cutest things. Like she does. So this is one of her books, and it's right there behind her. And if you're watching the video, if you're listening, you're going to have to, it's called I'm Getting a Cochlear Implant. Learn about how I will hear. And it's so cute, y'all. All her stuff is on Amazon. And so tell us, how long ago was that you went to the medical school? And then tell us when you started doing what you do and what it is you do.
Okay. So I went to grad school from 2007 to 2009. When I graduated, I moved to be with my husband. And most people in the oral deaf education community go to where a job is, because there are special schools where people are trained to work with the devices and that sort of thing. Well, I didn't go there. I just went with where my husband was, and I couldn't find work doing deaf education. So I ended up doing general education. But I remember as a kid wanting to be an author and an illustrator. And never in my wildest dreams will I ever think that I would do that. I've never pursued it. I've never taken a writing class or an art class, nothing. But after I had my daughter, I started writing, and I started writing these poems. And I had an idea, actually, when I did like my end of I don't know what you call it. I know it's called thesis, but that's not what it's called. But at the end of my program, all of these doctors and all of these educators were sitting in front of me, and they told me, we want you to explain how hearing works to a parent. So I said,
dissertation. Is it a dissertation?
Could be.
Okay.
Sure. But anyway, so I drew on the board. I drew 3 dog bones, and I wrote cochlea, spelled COKE -LEU cochlea. And the professor told me later, she was like, I got a knot in my stomach thinking that you didn't know how to spell that after 2 years. But anyway, the job of mine was to teach somebody who has never heard of it before. So looking at the word cochlea and how it's spelled, that's not going to work for people.
Right.
So anyway, so that information that I shared with them was in my mind for years, and I wanted to write a story about it because it's hard. It's really hard to understand. So fast forward a whole bunch of years. I taught, I had a baby, and then something happened with my voice. Didn't even know that was a thing, but I started having problems with my voice. And it always happened to me whenever I first started teaching, going from summer to the beginning of the school year. I went from not talking that much to talking constantly. So I would get hoarse. And so it concerned me, but then my voice didn't come back. And it was scratchy, and then it was irritated. And so long story short, I went to speech therapy twice, 2 different rounds of speech therapy. I saw an ENT. I reduced my days at work. And finally, I just got to where I could talk. At nighttime, my kids were being read to by YouTube. So people would read books on YouTube for my babies because I couldn't talk. And it was really sad. And when I was at school, I was getting mad at the kids because, I would tell them, I can tell you to get in line 10 times, or I can read you a book. You can't do both. And so it was kind of like sucking the joy out of the job. Anyway, because I ended up leaving my job, and I have been pursuing writing and illustrating. And I would have never even tried if I didn't have to, because I had the best job in the world and I was never going to leave.
It's like, I feel like God just does things sometimes, or he lets us do things like you overusing your voice, knowing what's going to come out on the other end. And it's part of his plan for us that we play the role of what needs to happen. You just were overusing your voice. Is that the main reason it went away? What did the doctor say?
He said that I did that. It's weird. I'm speaking wrong. I understand now, since I've been to speech therapy several times. I understand what I'm doing. It's really hard to think about. So your sound is supposed to be here, but for some reason, most of my sound is here. So it gets irritated quicker. So if I really think about it, I can make my sound change. I'll be interested if you can tell. Okay. So if I start using words with the M sound, then it makes the sound come up here. And then I can kind of keep my sound up here. So if I say, now I'm moving the sound of my voice. Do you hear a difference? Do you hear a difference? I feel a difference. So it's called resonance, and I understand it all, but
I'm sure singers know.
Huh?
I'm sure singers know what words you're talking about.
And I can sing fine. One of my voice had a problem. It was not good. But anyway, I have really good resonance when I sing. But when I speak, I use down here. Whatever. I don't talk all day, every day. Anyway, so.
Do you
framework?
Yeah. Do you think that all that you've went through with your voice and learning that has helped you even more with the children that you serve?
Yes, because, so on my certificate, it says, what is it? Masters of Science in Deaf Education. That's all it says, but it's with an emphasis in speech and audiology. I can't go teach in a school for the deaf where they teach sign language. I can't do that. My degree is in speech and audiology. So for me to go to the speech therapist, I was not happy about it. And again, here I am. It's helping me to kind of understand. I get it. If I don't like it, I get it. I did not like it. Oh, I didn't like it. I think if I was a kid, I would enjoy it more, because I have friends here who are speech therapists and they with all kinds of stuff. But I can relate, because as an adult, I felt broken. And every single time I went there, I was reminded that I was broken and I can't even put sound through a straw. I hated it.
So you've really learned what everybody's going through that you're working with. So
yeah.
Wow. What was your very first book? What when you sat down and thought, this is what I'm just going to try to do now?
My very first book is called I'm Your Mommy. And the only reason why I wrote it is because I had all this love inside of me for my daughter, and I had to get it out. And I know now, if you read the 5 love languages, you'll learn what your love languages are. And one of mine is words of affirmation. So that's how I love, is with my words. So I write this poem about how much I love her, and you prayed for her and you waited for her, and then I heard her heart beating. I loved her, but then I found out she was a girl, and I loved her. I mean, I still would chill. Then I felt her kicking. So if the first book that I wrote was I'm Your Mommy.
I love that. And you did all the illustrations in it.
I did. And it's, so my husband has been the biggest cheerleader. He is awesome. So we went on a vacation in 2021 in the summer. We hadn't been on vacation since we got married, which was in 2010. So it's been a long, long time. So when we were there, we went to Key West, and I wanted to talk to him. I wanted to approach him and tell him, hey, I'm like having an identity crisis, because I don't know what I'm going to do if I'm not a teacher. I can't keep doing this anymore. It is not fun. So anyways, I wanted to talk to him and tell him, hey, I don't want to teach anymore. I would really like to pursue writing, because God's been reminding me this whole time. He's given me all kinds of ideas of books. I've actually submitted stuff to publishers, and I've never heard anything.
I've been there.
Yeah, but I felt like God was like, look, you cannot keep teaching. This is the road that I have open for you. There are digital art platforms now. You can drag and drop websites. E-commerce is a thing now. There's so many people who are putting themselves out there. You don't have to be in journalism to make a video. You don't have to be trained to be a podcaster, So anyway, it took me 3 times, but I finally was able to get it out without crying. And he said, okay, let's do it. And so it's funny because when we were there, we came up with the idea for Why the Chicken Crossed the Road in Key West, which is right there. We wrote that one together. But there are art galleries everywhere there. And one of the art galleries we went into, which I never even do that. I don't like art galleries, but it was another fun thing. We were in this art gallery and we saw an original sketch by Dr. Seuss. And I just felt like God told me Dr. Seuss started somewhere too. And ever since then, I put in my notice and I have been studying and practicing digital art and learning everything under the sun. And I have learned that you can do anything you want to do.
Yes. And I wish you wouldn't have said that you don't even enjoy art galleries, because I immediately had you up on this major pedestal. I was like, she goes to art galleries. I need to start going to art galleries because I do love art, but I don't go to art galleries. But I don't.
Now I look at it a little bit more.
I bet so.
But I'm more interested in books. I love to look at children's books. Not like, I don't know what kind of pen they use. I know this is digital art,
Right.
Study it now.
Yeah.
But if my husband asked me to go to an art gallery, I would be like, but that's what your friends are for.
Yeah. So then you just started doing book after book, and what was your plan ultimately? Just to sell the books online?
I didn't really know.
You just enjoyed doing it, and you
like, move, start.
Yeah.
So the first thing I did, the kids went back to school. I got an iPad and I just studied and studied and studied about how to use this digital art platform. It's called Procreate. Anybody can do it. It is the coolest program. And then I just learned about self-publishing, and I did learn about Amazon, but I started really with personalized books. So this mommy book, I don't know if you can see it behind me, but there's one in pink and there's one in blue. So my idea, I wanted to make personalized books. So I actually have 18 versions of that mommy book. I have 8 for a girl, 8 for a boy, and you choose the hair and skin color combination so that the book is about me and you, but me and you don't look like everybody else,
Yes, that's so important. So you've taken what you learned as a school teacher to modify lessons for certain students, and now you're doing that in all your books. So what did it lead to that you were like, wow, I had no idea I'd be doing this?
Well, I just keep moving. There's just so many possibilities. A publisher flat out told me you can't do that. I did.
Yeah, that's right. And you know,
a lot of people say that, but.
And your videos, I've been watching on social media, you're in front of students and you're reading the book and you're signing the book. So how'd you get back in the classroom as a guest?
Well, that's a funny story. So I love making the things. I am not interested in selling it or asking somebody to buy it or, hey, can I come in your classroom? Like, that makes me so uncomfortable. But I did go into the school and I did read with some children, and that's been so fun. It's so fun. I miss that part of teaching. So I got to read my own stories, and this one school, the video that you're talking about, the kids wanted me to read another one, which was super, super fun. So I do sign. I do know sign language. I don't have perfect ASL grammar or anything like that. I do meet with some people who help me practice sign language. I have a deaf mentor who helps me just because I'm interested in that. I volunteer with a group called Deaf Heartbeat Inc. And I do videos that have sign language, not to teach, but just to promote communication. So I just sign a sentence and a question. And the goal is for people to respond and say, oh, I understood what you said, or I don't understand. Can you help me? And then hopefully respond on video. But I have not signed my books. I'd love to have somebody sign my books, though.
Yes. Well, we do have now, I have this dear friend, Lee. She's going to be on this season 5 as well. Yeah, I have I'm talking with her next week, and Lee is the ASL teacher for Waxahachie High School in Waxahachie, Texas, which is where I taught, which is where I met her. And she's got the same hearing loss as my mom had. She is fluent. You know, she's a great person for you, since you're mentioning that because she has all, I guess, the rules and all that and guidelines on the ASL. So I cannot wait. We're getting together, y'all. We're going to get everybody together here this summer. And I can't wait to just be here and watch you and Lee sign with each other. Because Mama could read sign, but she never was taught to use it. But to me, it's so beautiful. And so not a lot of people know this, but throughout my life, when I would play the piano at church, Daddy would sing, Mama never would sing. And I talk about this in the book. Mama didn't sing because she didn't know, she couldn't hear melody or pitch. It didn't make music was a buzz. So I always wanted to learn to sign a song and like play it on a CD player and sign it for her. And I never did. I just think it's so beautiful when I watch somebody sign Amazing Grace or How Great Thou Art. There's nothing more beautiful than that. But
it like opens up a whole nother world. When I'm at church now, I wish we had a deaf ministry at our church.
Yes, you should start that.
Yeah, I know. This is one thing on my plate.
I know.
Maybe I will sometime. But to hear the music, but to see the music is a totally different experience. And for me, now that I know what it's like to see the music, I'm missing that. I want that because it's just so pretty. I think the prettiest song I've ever seen, you can look it up. Gosh, I don't even know his name, but he signed the Star Spangled Banner at the Super Bowl. I think it was last year.
Yes.
Like a Grammy Award winning. Gosh, I can't even remember the movie.
But I bet you could just type in Star Spangled Banner sign language. I bet it'll bring it up.
It was so beautiful. So beautiful. Yeah. So I think everybody should learn sign language because it's valuable even for hearing people.
Well, you lost your voice.
My baby's sign language. Oh yeah, that's right. So there were weeks that I could not speak, which I used, a thing on my phone. You know, we have talk to text, but this was text to talk. So I would text and then it would talk. But, you know, I can't. That put me in another position, I think, to understand them. So help me remember that. But anyway, oh gosh, now I lost my train of thought. What was our,
well,
what was
we're
that?
talking about Lee and about, she's the sign language teacher and that y'all are going to meet. And we were talking about.
Yes. So my kids, we did talk to text, but I already knew sign language. So really, I didn't feel language to crack. I wish that my family knew more sign language, but they learned a ton because I signed to them often, you know, especially whenever I couldn't talk. But that again put me in a position to where I feel like I can relate to people who are deaf. And one of the reasons is people would have conversations around me and I could hear and understand, and I would be typing my response. But by the time my response was able to play, they were already 2 subjects over, you know? So sometimes whenever, you know, people talk about how they miss part of the conversation or they don't really, they're behind. I get that. I totally get that. So I'm like, whatever. I guess I'm not going to respond because by the time I get my words out, then it's way past the point of responding. You know what I mean?
Yes. Well, I know that you say you don't like to sell your books or market them and things, but if somebody right now is listening and they're very interested, like I was, how would they purchase one of your books? What about the mommy book and they want to pick out their skin tone and how would they do that?
Well, my company is called His Little Light of Mine because I feel like God gives everyone a light and my job was to shine light. So if you look up His Little Light of Mine,
and I'm going to put that I'll put that in the description of the podcast so people will have it.
Google says, do you mean this little light of mine? No, His Little Light of Mine. So my website is hislittlelightofmine.com. If you look up my name, Lindsay Dain, all my stuff comes up because I have an Etsy shop where personalized books are ordered. I have a website, which is hislittlelightofmine.com that is like connected to Etsy. And you can get my books on Amazon. I have 2 books that are now available through Ingram Spark. So libraries can get them, which is super cool. I'm very excited about that. But yeah, if you type in Lindsay Dain, you can find my YouTube channel and all that sort of thing. But after mine is my business name.
I think that you should do a song, like a children's song, and sign it on one of your social media videos. I think that would be super cute. Pick a little song and do a sign to it, because I think it's so pretty.
It is so pretty. Yeah. Oh, there's like some controversial stuff about hearing people signing. I'm not, I don't even really want to get into it, but I do put videos, sign language videos up, but gotta be super careful not to step on anybody's toes. But you know what? My goal is just to plant the seed. My friend years ago got me interested in sign language because she showed it to me. She didn't teach me perfect grammar. You know, I didn't become an interpreter, but from that time on, I have always had a deaf heartbeat. And so my hope is just to start planting seeds, you know? You should try it. It's so fun.
Yeah.
So you're actually, go ahead.
You're an inspiration to so many moms out there that are like, you know, stuck. They feel like they're stuck and they're not doing what they really would love to do. And I understand finances, you know, are a problem, but everything that you've done, would you say it was with minimal financing? Like you did it all yourself?
Yes and no. So if you want to publish a book, it doesn't cost anything. It just costs time, because you can upload all of your documents to Amazon. They can give you an ISBN. They will, they'll put it out for everybody to buy for nothing. And they're not out any money because it's print on demand. So if somebody buys your book, they'll print one and ship it. So if somebody buys my book, Amazon gets some money, I get some money. But if nobody buys my book, they're not out anything. So yeah, it hasn't cost a lot to create the book. Now, most people, but it's taken a lot of time for me to learn how to draw and to learn how to format. And the marketing has been a nightmare. That is not my favorite thing to do. But I've learned so much that I've tried to help other people. Hey, you know, these are all the mistakes I made. Don't do that. Do this instead, you know. And I've met so many other people who are self-published. And there's lots of them who have books about hearing loss because of their experiments with their children. So I told you my company is called His Little Light of Mine. That's like my publishing company. That's what I use to publish my books with. But I kind of have a different branch that's called His Little Hands of Mine. And that is deaf specific. So that has, you know, my cochlear implant book, which isn't just about cochlear implants, by the way. It teaches how a cochlear implant will allow someone to hear, but it also teaches the idea of what sound is, what hearing is, what hearing loss is. So it's, you don't have to have a cochlear implant to read it, or even have hearing loss at all to learn something. But anyway, that book, and I have like ASL word searches and different kind of art and that sort of thing. That's all under His Little Hands of Mine.
You know, and teaching school, I had several years where I had a student in high school that had a hearing, you know, modification or disability. And so like I would even say my high school kids loved when I read them children's books. I would say no matter what age group out there, if you're a teacher or an administrator and you're listening, this book, her stuff would be so important. And so it's so needed in a classroom, because you could read this book that way the whole class kind of understands what that student's going through. I just think that that's very important. It's not just, you know, oh, well, I'm not going to read that in my class. We don't have anybody like that. Well, I guarantee you they're going to come across somebody in their life that's going to have some form of hearing loss.
Well, it's just to be aware of differences. And I don't know, I have big goals for that book. I want that book. The person who I wrote it for was the mom, because I'm a mom, but dads relate to to the mommy who's just been told their child cannot hear. And they don't know what that means. All they know is what is very limiting information that most people know. Oh, well, my child's, they may not be successful and they may not ever be able to speak and they're always going to be alone and they're not going to be able to have friends. And that is not true. There are people who can't hear anything, who have a fantastic life. They can do everything but hear, So the purpose of that book really was for the mom to just be like, look, this is different. It's probably not what you expected, but I'm going to help you at least give you some of the information that the doctors are telling you about that you have no idea what they're talking about.
Yeah. You're just taking
home, read it over and over and over again.
But you're just taking all those medical words that you had to learn, and you're taking it back to the words that you started medical school with.
Yeah.
So that
I'm so simple-minded, And you know how many children's books I've read? And I'm sure other people read a children's book and they're like, I could write that. Yeah, you could. So if you have an idea, you should do it. Yeah. But my big dreams for this book is I want all people who are being trained to work with children who are deaf, whether they're audiologists, speech therapists, teachers of the deaf, I want it to be required reading so that they understand it in a very easy way, because all of these people who understand the smart stuff are going to be talking to people who don't. And so they have to be able to understand it, in my opinion, in an easy way. So I think that all students, it'd be very helpful too before they start learning all that hard stuff. But also, it needs to be on counselors' offices. It needs to be in every special education library. So if a child comes in who has hearing loss, whether they use sign language or whether they have a device of some kind, they're already prepared and they need to give it to the teacher. They need to give it to all of the people who are working with that child. Because again, another thing that I did years ago that I didn't know was I taught kindergarten when I first got out of school, and I worked in Phoenix. So most of my kids were Spanish speaking. So we were learning English and we were learning Spanish. We were learning sign language because I was teaching them sign language too. And about halfway through the year, a little girl came into our class who was deaf, and she had a hearing aid. And it was the best place that she could have come because every single one of my kids could communicate with her, which is really cool. But when she came to my class, I don't remember talking to a teacher of the deaf, but I do remember them giving me this device. And it was a necklace, and it plugged into her hearing aid, and they told me just turn it on and it helps her hear. And okay, I did that sometimes. Sometimes I would forget to turn it off. Sometimes I would forget to turn it on, but I didn't understand the value. But if I would have been educated more, then I would have understood what a disservice I was doing to her when it wasn't on, or when it was on and I wasn't talking to her, but at that age, an advocate for herself.
Right. And even when they can advocate for themselves, they don't. Because I taught 10th grade and I had a boy that had that same thing. I didn't know anything about it. I've not been educated on it as a teacher, but yet I'm educated on everything else. There's all the meetings that they could go to and all the trainings, but I'd never been educated on that. And my mom was deaf, but I still didn't know what that was. So I never urged him to make sure it was on or not. And as you're talking, I'm just thinking about all the ASL teachers out there. Maybe it could start with all our ASL teachers in all the schools, and they advocate for the book to be in all the counseling offices and all the, the ASL teachers bring it in front of the board. Maybe the ASL teachers go to the school board meetings and get the books bought for each district.
That'd be cool. Well, why don't you put the ISBN numbers in the comments? Because is available to be ordered at any library. It is in the Waco West Library, which I'm super excited about. But if you go to the library, you can request that they buy certain books. And they might, and they might not. But if you have the numbers, I'm actually creating a Dain hard of hearing list with all ISBN numbers, because I know of 6 different people now who have a new book about hearing loss. And they're all self-published. So they don't have the marketing, but if we could get that information and give it to all the libraries, they're wanting to promote, diversity and inclusion and representation. Like that's a whole big thing right now. But if they don't know about it, then, I think that's so much of the problem now. It's not even really a problem, but just like you weren't educated. You didn't know.
You're back. Okay. I will be able to edit this, but folks, we just recorded the whole second half and I forgot to hit record. So we're back and I'm so sorry, but where do you see yourself, Lindsay, in 5 years? What do you want to happen with this book? How do people get in touch with you? Give us all the good closing stuff.
Okay. Well, where do I want to see myself in 5 years? I would really like to write a whole bunch of my other books. I have like 28 books on my to-do list. So I'd love to do that. Some of my big goals are I would love to get my cochlear implant book into libraries. Gosh, now I can't remember. Did I say all my dreams and goals in the first video or the second video?
Yeah, I think it was the second.
It was the second video. Okay. So my hope is I want this book to be required reading for anyone who is going to be working with children with hearing loss. So that's teachers of the deaf, speech and language pathologists, audiologists, all of them. I think it needs to be required reading. I want it in every library, everywhere. I want it in special education libraries, at the school. I'd like to have it in counseling offices at the school. So if they have a child who comes to the school today that has a hearing loss, they already have a book about that represents that child, inclusion and representation. All that stuff is so, so valuable and it's so important. But there's so many people that I know now that their books aren't out there yet, like mine, because they're self-published. So we've got to push that. We really need to push that. But I would like my books in offices everywhere so that they're available when a child comes, because they're coming.
Yeah. And people, the theme for season 5 is don't wait. So don't wait. Don't wait to get these books out. Don't wait to make the call. Don't wait to go talk to the administrator. Don't wait to go talk to the school board if you're a parent. It doesn't have to be school people that go to the board. Parents can go to the board meeting and say, hey, this should be a required reading. What do I do to get that process started? And talk to somebody. Talk to your teacher, kindergarten teachers. This would be a great book to start kids out on their next 12 years so that when, it's not if, it's when they come in contact with somebody that can't hear, normally the way that everybody, hears 100% and they might hear only 20%. I had students that would only hear, out of their right ear, their left ear, they didn't hear. So anyway, it's very important that we get more education out there in all things, but especially when you've already got a resource right here. It's perfect.
Well, and sign language is so valuable, even for hearing people in classrooms. You can tell someone, if you're reading a story and you have one little friend that's kind of wiggly, you don't have to talk to them. All you have to do is just sign to them. It's so valuable. I think everybody needs to learn sign language because eventually you're probably going to run into somebody who's deaf.
I wish I would have had it when I was a teacher because those signs would have been amazing. Like during the stroke testing in Texas, the signing would have been, if the teachers would have had signing and the kids would have known the basics, it helps a lot.
Oh, it's so valuable. Or baby sign. Like I taught my daughter, my first daughter especially, I taught her so many signs. She knew, I don't know, like 10 animals before she could say, I don't know, bad rap.
Yeah.
We could sign so much more. I just think it's so valuable.
Well, how do people get in touch with you if they wanted to get in touch with you? Is it your website?
Yes. So my website is called hislittlelightofmine.com. I have another section of that called His Little Hands of Mine. And that's all deaf love, deaf awareness. I have art stuff and different activity books and that sort of thing. You can also look for me just by my name, Lindsay Dain. It's spelled Dain. And you can find my YouTube channel. You can find my Amazon. I have Etsy. I'm all over the place.
She's everywhere, guys. And And you can get in touch with me if you need to get in touch with her and can't figure it out, but it's so easy. Her Etsy shop is so cute. Everything that she does is just it has such a Lindsay spin on it. It's so cute.
Well,
And
there is another thing I want to share with you. Let's see. So I have two of my books. This Cultivar Plant book especially has an ISBN number that libraries can find. So if you don't mind, please put the ISBN number in the show notes, and you can go to your local library and you can ask for them to purchase that book. And they can, and hopefully they will. And I actually have a whole list of books all about hearing loss for children, for parents, for young adults. And you can ask for all of those books or any of those books to be bought. And so many people now, like us, are self-published. So we don't have Penguin Books pushing this information out to everybody. So the only way that people know about our books is if we tell them, or some, word of mouth. So I'll give you some ISBN number that you can go to your local library and you can do something today to help promote deaf awareness.
Yeah, folks, absolutely. Don't wait. That's the theme of season 5. And thank you so much for actually fulfilling your purpose and turning your meaning and your passion in your life into purpose by serving others. Thank you, Lindsay.
Thank you.
Oh, you know what? Let's not go. Will you sign something to us here at the end and then tell us right after what it is so we can just see some beautiful sign?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, I'll sign to you. I said, hi, my name is Lindsay. I'm a mom, an illustrator, an author, and I love sign language. That's what I said.
Oh, I love it. It's beautiful. And I do know that. Beautiful.
Great. Oh, beautiful.
Well, thank you so
some really cool signs. Like, you're going to like it. Watch. This is Trinity.
Oh, wow.
One. Isn't that beautiful?
I love
that. Mm-hmm. And then I learned there's this guy I follow, and I don't remember his name, but this is Father, and I learned this is God, but he showed me that you can do 2 and be like Heavenly Father and point up to the sky. Isn't that so pretty?
Oh, I love that. It's so beautiful. Well, thank you, Lindsay. We may have to have a whole nother podcast of just signing.
Okay, yeah.
Thank you. And thank you, everybody, for tuning in. And stay tuned for the next season 5 of Don't Wait on Think Theo. Bye, everybody.